Begin the Quran Daf Mesechtes Bava Kama Daf Pei Hey. Begin 4 lines down at the top of the Yamid, but the Gemara continues to explain the halacha of our previous opening Mishnah of this Perek Chayvel, which is speaking about the Chamisha Dvarim that a person is liable for having damaged another person, which will up to the item of Tsar, and the Gemara explains how exactly do we evaluate the pain that has to be compensated. Throughout the entire world. Some discussing today's daf, like we said, is tsar, the pain that a person gets when he was injured. All about smach. What happens if there's a secondary injury from the actual hurt from that wound? Let's say it develops blisters. How do we qualify that liability? The halacha bripui, the obligation of the perpetrator to compensate for the doctor bills. Sheva is to compensate him for his loss of work. Chorsha, what happens if he makes him deaf? And actually, what happens if that was after a whole process of having injured him? And the concept of Sheves Gedolah and Sheves Ketana, Machlekes and Bayin Rav in the Gemara, Sheves Gedolah means the larger picture of the loss of work, and Sheves Ketana means the smaller picture, meaning day by day. Do we qualify those as two separate things or as one big thing? So begin the current daf Pehei, 4 lines down at the top of the Yamid. The Mishnah had said, and the Gemara quotes this, that regarding the tsar, to compensate, we assess how much one would charge to agree to undergo such pain. I would say, okay, for $1,000, I'll take that electric shock. Whatever it is, whatever the injury is that he got, how much would people normally take for that? So that is how much you compensate. Now, the Gemara, however, starts off with the following question. We said that the Tana of our Mishnah holds that is tsar b'makom nezik and sholei b'makom nezik. You have to pay for the tsar, whether he got an actual injury that you're compensating him for, or even though it's just for pain itself. So now the Gemara asks, tsar b'makom nezik, to compensate for the pain where he cut off his hand, let's say. There was an actual damage, and he paid him for the hand. Heicher shaiminon, how do you assess the pain? What is the Gemara's question? The Rashi explains, but he has to cut it off because he's compensating him for the hand. You want a pound of flesh, I'm going to take it, but how do we get it? Obviously, I'm going to pay you for the hand. We got to cut it off. So essentially, the Gemara's question, according to Rashi, is why are you compensating him for pain in that type of circumstance? If anyways you're paying him for the hand, and paying for the hand obviously is going to be a painful procedure. So why are you paying him for that tzar? So Father Shmuel says that we assess how much would a person want to take to have his hand cut off. So the Gemara first goes through a discussion and says, wait a second, if it's to have his hand cut off, that's not only tsar, that has all the 5 things in it. Nezek, Tsar, Ripui, Sheves, and Baishas. So how exactly is this helping us to evaluate and to assess the Tsar? Or how does that answer the question even regarding how you had to go ahead and cut it off anyway? What, we're talking about fools? Like, who would, in their right mind, would take a certain amount of money to have his hand cut off? So it says the Gemara, no. We mean we mean to cut off his hand that was already cut off. And what do you mean? How it was already cut off? So Rashi says it was sewed together with ligaments, and it's not fit to do any work with it because it's just like his fake hand. So it says the Gemara, what do you mean? His cut off hand also there's not only pain, there's pain and embarrassment. Because it's shameful to take his flesh off and to give it to dogs. Essentially, it's not clear then how to evaluate. There's not anytime you have a hypothesis, or anytime you're doing a scientific experiment, you have to be able to isolate the variable. You have to say, oh, this is it. This is not helping us because first you told me a pshat to cut off his hand. That's all 5 things in there. How am I supposed to identify exactly the tsar? And then the Gemara says, anyways, not talking about fools. So he says, no, the cut off his cut off hand. It's still not going to tell me how much a person was willing to take for that. Well, there's tsar and baishas mixed in over there. There's shame and pain over there. So how am I supposed to identify how much is the tsar? Says the Gemara, no, Ella, the pshat is like this. we assess how much would a person be willing to take to have his hand cut off that was already decreed by the government that is going to get cut off, but how much would he be willing to take pain sam between poison that doesn't have any pain at all? How much would he want to take to instead get it cut off l'sayif with a sword? So if he was able to have it amputated with a potion, and you told him, look, if you do it with a sword, we'll pay you a certain amount of money, how much more would he take for that? So that's not, the busha is not that. The busha, the hand's being cut off anyway. The nezik anyway is being cut off. It's that difference between with a potion or with a sword, well, that's only pain related. That is what we assess. How much would he be willing to take to do it in the more painful thing? That's how much we'll pay him. So Amadi said, Hachanama here also, loy shakel, he wouldn't take all the money of the world, mitzar nafshe, and pain himself. And here in our Mishnah, the story was already done. Okay, well, it was already done. Now, how do you want to compensate him for the pain that he had? But how could you assess it based on how much would a person say, guy's hand, look, the government says your hand has to be cut off. You live somewhere in Iraq, Iran, or whatever they say, your hand's getting cut off, right? So we're going to do it with a potion. If you want, we'll pay you a few extra dollars if you do it with a sword. The Gemara makes it sound like, for no one in the world is a guy going to say, okay, let's do it with the sword, pay me a few $1,000s. So how does this tell us how we're supposed to evaluate this? Ella rather says the Gemara the other way around. We evaluate how much a person would give to the agent of the king. The government officer comes knock on your door and says, okay, the government says we have to cut off your hand. How much would you give him that his hand that's going to be cut off, that's already decreed by the government? When the government says the guy comes, he chops off your hand. No anesthesia, no nothing, he just cuts it off. He says, do me a favor, I'm a doctor, I have no problem getting the hand off, but I have this painless operation with some potion, and he's like, no, I get caught, this is a big problem, right? It says, look, like $10,000 would do something. Oh, for that, then there's no problem, right? So it's purely subjective. Yeah, I'm saying maybe it is, but I would imagine there might be some median or some mean, or to be able to evaluate how much would a person give. I guess this is like you have to look into the more nitty gritty of the poskim on how do you evaluate that. But this is like what the standard would be. How much would a person give? In other words, anesthesia. How much would a person pay to do an operation with anesthesia? Is also could be subjective, but I guess that's what the Gemara is saying. That's how much. But the Gemara says, wait, that pshat doesn't work. Hai lito. But what are you saying? That but we said with the words of our Mishnah was kama adam kayetze bezeh, and that's, I think the words kayetze bezeh are important over there because it is subjective. So it's kayetze bezeh, whatever type of person that he is. But how much would it be rates a litel? Well, I saying litel the way you just translate is not. It's not about how much would a guy take, but how much would a guy would give, because he told me it's no guy would give any money, would take anyone in the world to say, okay, let's do it with the sword, right? He would say from the sword down to the poison. So that should be a giving. How much money would he give, not take? So that's not difficult because the word litel is like this. It means litel zem. It means that how much would a person take from the mazik, what he would give to the king. So kam adam, the words of the Mishnah, how much would he want to take from the mazik, what he would give to the government officer? That's how you translate the halacha of the Mishnah. That's how you evaluate the tsar b'makom nezik of this injury. Next item we mentioned in the Mishnah was ripui, was the healing, the doctor bills. So the Mishnah said, if the guy injured him, he has to heal him. He has to pay for the doctor bills. So the Gemara elaborates on this halacha. What happens if olu boy tzemachim? What happens if he develops sores? Machmasamaka, because of the wound. Then v'nistaramaka. Then the wound comes back. He has to heal him. And he also has to give him the value of the work that he's missing because of the sores. He had to be on bed rest, so he has to pay him for the loss of work too. Now, shaloimach masamaka, if let's say these sores are not because of the wound, and so it doesn't have to heal him. And it doesn't have to give him the loss of work that he's missing. He says, there's three opinions over here. He says, also because of the injury, he has to pay for the doctor. But he doesn't have to give him the loss of work that's happening because of his sores that he developed. The third opinion, the loss of work and the healing, the pasuk compares the two of them. So therefore, they put in the same pasuk. It says rak shifta yitin merape yirape. So that teaches us called shechai b'sheves. Whenever you're obligated to pay the loss of work, chai b'ripa, you have to pay for the deductible. She'en chai b'sheves, you don't have to pay for the deductibles. And chai b'ripa, you don't have to go ahead and pay for the deductibles. So therefore, as Rashi explains, what are the Chacham trying to say? Here, where you're not obligated, as we found in the previous opinion, to pay for the sheves, you don't have to pay for the deductibles. Whereas the Rabban Kama, the Tana Kama, held that no, you are actually obligated on both. So again, we have three different opinions. The Tana Kama holds Yichai for sheves and Ripoy. Rabbi Yehuda holds Yichai for Ripoy and not Chai for sheves. Chum holds, since you're not Chai for sheves, like Rabbi Yehuda says, you're not Chai for Ripoy either. It says, what are they disagreeing about these three different opinions in the Brisa? Rabbi says, I'll tell you first what I heard. The Asper says, I encountered the Rabbanan from the yeshiva that they were saying like this. Over here, the Maka Nitno Le'eged Kamifligi. The disagreement is regarding when you have a wound, are you allowed, does the victim have permission to wrap and tie a bandage around the injury because of the pain of the cold? But because he wraps it, it causes it to develop sores because of the heat and the warmth of the bandage, which sometimes people have that, right? You put on the bandage, people say, nah, don't put it on, it's going to take longer, it's going to fester, whatever, this and that, but he doesn't want it to be exposed to the outside. So that's the machlekes regarding, are you allowed to go ahead and bandage the injury? That's the machlekes. So the Gemara explains. Rabban and Sabri, the Rabban and Kamoy, meaning the Tana Kama, they held, Maka Nitna Le'eged. You're allowed to go ahead and put a bandage on your wound. So therefore, if it develops a sore, it's all part of the injury, and therefore the guy has to pay for the deductibles and he has to pay for the loss of work. That's the first opinion. If you Sabi held no, a wound was not given with permission le'eged to bandage it, where this guy for his own personal pleasure is bandaging it. So therefore, it's developing sores. That's not the mazik's responsibility for. Now, so wait, why does he hold that you chayav for ripui but potter for sheves? So he explains. The Torah, when it mentions the word of refuah, mentions it two times. It says v'rape yirape. What's the redundancy? So it's being repeated to tell you there's a doubly obligated requirement of refuah. So mechayiv. So although really you're not really allowed to go ahead and bandage it, but l'maaseh, if it develops sores, the guy will have to pay for the deductibles. Sheves l'itana beikra, but it only says rak shifta yitin. It says the word sheves one time. It doesn't repeat it. L'mechayiv. Then you're not going to be obligated for the loss of work because this guy bandaged his wound. That's what says Rabbah that he heard the yeshivalite saying pshat in this machlekes in the Brisa. But the meanwhile, no, it says, I said to them, no. If a wound is not allowed to be bandaged, according to Rabbi Yehuda, so it's not true. Rabbi Yehuda's opinion would not make sense. You can't tell me he would hold Yechayev for Ripui, but Potter and Shabbos, he wouldn't be obligated with deductibles if you're not allowed to put a bandage. What was his man shield that he's bandaging it? Ella rather, no, it's a finer point. The Kula no, everyone agrees that a wound you're allowed to go to bandage. But you're not allowed to do an extra bandaging. Oh, so that's a machlekes. Yehuda holds keeping the since go ahead and do extra bandaging, and the guy did it. So put the Tanna Mikra. So regarding the deductibles, which the Torah repeats the word two times, so then you'll be liable because you are allowed to bandage. Now do extra bandaging. Okay, for that, since it repeats it two times, you'll be chayiv. Sheves like Tanna Mikra, but Sheves that doesn't repeat the pasuk a second time, you're not going to be obligated. Now, that's the Tanna Kama, and that's Rabbi Yehuda. Now, Rabban Sar, again, going back to the Tanna Kama, they hold that no, keeping the Tanna Mikra beripui. Since the Torah repeated itself, the word ripui two times, Hashem is not mechayev, so they hold the hekesh of the Rabbanan Basraya of the last opinion, but they hold it in the other direction. They hold since you chayev for ripui because it repeats the word two times. Hashem is not mechayev, you can be chayev and sheves on loss of work. So there's because compared to ripui, and if you'll be chayev for both, when you do an Eged Yisera, you be chayiv for both the Ripui and for the Sheves. Now, Rabbi Yehuda Sabi holds, no, Sheves lo mechayiv. Not going to be chayiv for the loss of work. Why? Because you read, although the pasuk is comparing doctor bills for the loss of work, but it says rak shifta yitin. The word rak is a miyud, telling us that no, in this you will not compare it to ripui. You will not be chayiv for the loss of work if the guy did extra bandaging. Now, Rabbanan, meaning the Tana Kama, what do they do with rak? They learn that something else. It's a miyud l'shaloi machmas hamaku the asa. Only if the sores are coming not because of the original injury, meaning, as the Gemara is going to explain later on, if this victim didn't listen to the doctor's orders, because of that, he's developing a sore. So that's what rak is coming to exclude. That you don't have to pay for the loss of work. Now, so okay, that was the first two opinions of the Tana Kama and of Rabbi Yehuda. Now, the Rabban Basroi, for the last Rabban, I mean, there's two opinions, Tana Kama, which are Rabbanan, and then there's, again, it says Chacham, which are different rabbis, which doesn't say who the names are. The Amri that they say, whatever, you're obligated to pay the loss of work, you're obligated to pay the doctor bills. Whatever, you don't have to pay the doctor bills, which, meaning the loss of work, which they're going on the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda. Well, you don't have to pay for the Shabbos. So therefore they held the other way. The Hakish works the other way around. Therefore you don't have to pay for the doctor bills. So according to them, what is the purpose of repeating the word v'rape yirape 2 times? According to the other opinions, it's coming to teach you that okay, since repeated 2 times, it's a higher degree of obligation of liability, and therefore even by Eged Yisera you'll be chayiv. The only machlekes they have was regarding Sheves, but Rabban Basroi hold no, even Ripa you're not going to be chayiv. So then why do you repeat the word yirape a second time? Says the Gemara me'bayile ligedetanya d'bei bishmal. That we need, as we taught in the Brayso b'shibri bishmal. The Tanya like in the Brayso d'bei bishmal leimer v'rape yirape. A well-known halacha. This is important for every single doctor out there in the world. Because from here is where we know that permission was given to the doctor to heal. And why would you think a doctor can't practice? Because Rashi tells us you can't say Hashem hits and you heal. What are you doing? Hashem obviously wants this person to suffer. He's giving the person this disease. How can you go against God? So therefore, you need to have v'rape yirape to say that the doctor is allowed to go ahead and heal. Which Taisa says, but why do you need to have the double terminology? The Gemara's question was, why is it repeating the word 2 times? So the other Pshatim was saying to tell you, because the extra requirement that you have to pay for the doctor bills. But according to the Chacham Basroi hold that you don't have to pay. So what's it teaching? It says, that the permission for the doctor to heal. Just say one word. Why you have to v'rape yirape? Say b'yirape. Well, how do you see this in the doubling of the terminology? So it says Taisus that you would have thought to say that when are you allowed to heal a person? Like the context of the story that the Torah is talking about. Where does the Torah talk about healing a person? A guy gave a guy a zetz. A guy threw him down 7 flights of stairs, and the guy is injured. The guy has to pay for the doctor bills. That's a makkah b'nei adam. Someone injured someone. So then the Torah tells you you're allowed to heal him. But when the guy becomes sick, when he gets yena machla, whatever it is, lo yaleinu, when you're healing the person, it looks like you're contradicting the decree of the king. Because who gave him the machla? Hashem gave it to him. If someone else did it, okay, you go into the concept of free will, and b'chir and the kodesh, whatever, could a person do something Hashem didn't do? But nice, if someone did it, you could go against what someone else did. But Hashem does it. Oh, maybe you ought to go against God. Who are you to go defy God's will that He wants this guy to have the sickness? That's why you have to repeat the word v'rape yirape, extra level of nitin rishus l'reip l'rape, even when it's God doing it. You're allowed to go against God, so to speak, and heal the person. So that's the doubling of the terminology. Interesting from Taisus that explains what the Gemara is trying to say. From where do we know that if a person develops sores, machmas hamaka, again because of the injury, or v'nistera hamaka, or let's say the injury comes back, that you have to go and heal the person, and you have to give him the loss of work that he's getting. So even though this is secondary, this is not the original injury, but the guy now is festering because of this. It says rak shifta yitin. It's just the loss of work that he has to give. So what do you see from over here? So, like we said, Rashi explains that since it's repeating the word ripui 2 times, coming to say that the healing has to be even for secondary ailments like the sores that are developing, and then we compare the shevis to the ripui. That's how we know, according to this Tana, that you have to go ahead and not only pay for the doctor bills, but also pay for the loss of work, even if it's from the sores, not from the original injury. Now, you would think that the same thing would be even not from the original injury. That if the guy develops the sores, you would have to compensate him. It says rock. It says rock shifted. And the rock, the meat is coming to say no. It has to be because of the makkah. He says no. Af machmas makkah potter. No, even if it's coming from the wound, you're going to be exempt. Shenem rock, because it says rock. The rock is minimizing, saying that no, for the primary injury, yes, but if it's a sore that developed because of that, you don't have to compensate for that. Now, there's two different interpretations in what Rabbi Yehuda was saying. Igadami, that those that say that af machmas hamaka, when he was saying that also even for the wound potter, he means potter legamri. You're going to be totally exempt, meaning even from ripui, which is Rabbanan basroi. If you recall, the later Rabbanan said that you potter on both shevis and ripui, because just like shevis, we know you potter because it's rak shivtai, so to refu is compared to that, and that you're going to be potter on both of them. Those that say Rabbi Yehuda, when he said af machmas hamaka potter, he was saying only potter mishevis, you potter from the loss of work. But you would be obligated in the doctor bills. Come on, who is that like? Kavu, like his father, Rabbi Yehuda. This is Rabbi Yehuda. His father was the middle opinion, held that you can be potter on shevis, b'chayv and ripui. So that's two different versions in what Rabbi Yehuda was saying. When you potter is a potter legamri, like the Rabban Masroi, or potter on shevis, like his father, Rabbi Yehuda. I think more elaborate. Some Amar, the Tanakama had said that you would think that even if it's not because of the wound, that he would be liable if it develops sores. Tamalim rock. That's what we're saying. It says rock. No, rock shift. The rock is coming to minimize. It says what's haste? Why do I need a pasuk to tell me that when it's not developed because of the injury, that I'm going to be? How could you make a person liable for something that's not because of the injury? Somebody said, no, let me qualify for you. What do we mean when we say it's not because of the wound? Of course it's because of the wound. But it's not directly because of the wound. How does that? Like learn the Brisa. The guy, the victim, didn't listen to the doctor's orders. So like Taisa explains, that's not considered such a negligence. But Lamaisa, the guy didn't listen to the doctor's orders. And the guy still needed his cigarette. He still needed his coffee. He did whatever it is. He ate his honey, he ate all types of sweets, his chocolate. Because the honey and all types of sweet things, is harmful for the injury. So the wound started festering. You think you have to heal him? The guy always had his chocolate every day. But now, because of the injury, so now the guy can't, and he's suffering. But that's just saying that rock teaches you that that's not because of the makkah. It's because of makkah, but you could listen to the doctor's orders, you become well. So that's what we're saying. The rock is coming to teach you shlimach masamaka. Says Gemara, just to clarify, ma gargusni. We said that the makkah becomes gargusni. What is that? So Mabai says nosto kirichsa. It creates like this dead flesh. Maya suse. What's the healing for that type of condition? Says the Gemara, it's a hala. We know aloe is very good for the skin. The kira and wax. The kalba, which is resin, says Rashi, but which is in the barrels of wine. So you put that on the dead skin, that will heal it. Now, related also regarding the halacha of ripui, says the Gemara, Ve'i amale, if the perpetrator says to the victim, look, asyacha ana, I'm a doctor, I'll heal you. I'm not going to pay for all the big bills you're sending my way, all these receipts of big operations. I'll heal you. So Malay, the victim could tell him, he says, Damas alai ka'arya arba. I don't trust you. You appear to me like a lion waiting to pounce. Like you, the one who punched me, you're going to be my doctor. That I'm not doing. Now, if he tells him, look, my sina asya demogin b'mogin, says, I'm going to bring a doctor that shields for free. Mean to say that he'll heal you for free. Because, like Rash says, he's a relative of his. He says, you're going to make me pay hundreds of thousands of dollars? My brother-in-law, he's a doctor, he'll heal you. Amalei says, Asi de mogin b'mogim, a doctor that heals for free, mogin shav, is worth nothing. Otha areitich is also worth for free. Meaning it's you get what you pay for. Says, I'm not taking no freebies. That type of doctor is not going to work. Now, if he says, my sin l'cha asher l'chika, says, look, I'll bring you a doctor from far away, from the Midwest. Who knows? He gives me a good rate. Amalei could tell him, no, asher l'chika, and it rhymes, so that's why it's cute. Asher l'chika eine avida, a doctor from far blinds the eye. Meaning the guy's going to leave. Not concerned if he blinds this guy eye. Well, I trust a guy who's coming in from who knows where, from Kalamazoo. He's going to come in over here. He's going to do an operation, and he says, "Oh, you take off the bandages in 5 days, and come back, and the guy can't see anymore." So, no, I'm not taking such a doctor. And this is important because this is obviously in the court of law what the guy could refuse. Now, if the victim says to the mazik, he says, "Havli lididi, look, you give me the money, but and I will heal myself." So Malay. No, the mazik could tell him, no, peshat benafshach, you're going to be negligent, and then you're going to overspend on the expenses. You're going to take from me way more than what's necessary. Now V'yamalibit tells him, no, kotzi make it. Let's make up a set price, and I'll take that from you, and that's it. You'll be done. Amalei says, no, kol shkin, all the more so. I don't want such a plan, because if the peshat benafshach, if you're going to be negligent because you're going to take the money, you're going to spend it on a Corvette, who knows what you're going to do. So it's very embarrassing for me because people can call me the damaging ox. This guy. You saw what happened to him? Look at this guy. The guy limps now every day because this guy went and threw him down the steps. Right? I paid for the doctor, but the guy could have gone for therapy. No, the guy instead went and gambled it on one crazy night, and then who knows where. I'm saying, so I'm not doing that. I'm sending it to the doctor. I'm paying for the doctor. They'll send me the receipts, and we'll heal you that way. Now, going back to the primary halacha of the Mishnah, B'kulan, all of the daled dvarim, tzar, ripu, sheves, and boishes, mishtalmin b'makam nezik. We said when the guy injures a guy, so you got to pay for now how much he's worth less. But besides the nezik, even if it's a situation where you're paying for the damages already, you still have to pay for the tzar, the ripu, the sheves, and the boishes. Says the Gemara brings the source. How do we know that for these 4 things you pay even if you're already paying for the nezik anyway? So I remember Zid Mishmein Darav, he says, Amakra. Pasuk says in Shemais, it says, Petza tachas patza, that the injury in place of the injury is teaching you litin tsar b'makam nezik, is to give for the tsar, and same thing is for the other ones, even in the situation where there's nezik, which Rashi and Peidal already explained, that we learned this out from, it's from an extra pasuk, because it already says kiviyah tachas kiviyah in that pasuk, a burn in place of a burn. Why didn't you just say petza tachas patza? To tell you an extra pasuk that even if you're already paying for the damage, even then you have to pay for the tsar. Says Gemara, really? This is like your source because it's extra pasuk? It's not extra. You actually needed to teach something as Getin Tamid Beis. This is actually teaching us L'Rabbi Shoigi Kemezid V'Oinis Karatzin. The Gemara in the second paragraph of Chavav Beis brought that we learn that from Petza Tachas Patza that you're going to be chayiv in all types of circumstances. Not only when you do it deliberately, even if you did it by mistake. Not only if you did it willingly, even if you did it beyond your control. That you're going to be chayiv adam muid la'olam. Now we learn that from Petza Tachas Patza, from the extra pasuk. Whatever you did, that you're chayiv for. So how are you saying that you're learning out from over here? Halacha of litin sar but makam nezik. Says the Gemara, because Imkain, if that was all the pasuk was teaching me, nichtav kra, the pasuk could have said, petza bib petza. My petza tachas patza. What's the word tachas? That's an extra word. Tarti, it's the extra petza bib petza, that's teaching me one of the halachas. And the extra tachas is teaching me the other halacha of litin sar but makam nezik.
Where do we learn that petza is teaching us
That's on Daf Chavavim Beis. In the second parak, we had a drasha. The Gemara was saying that it's on the top of Amud Beis. Petz Tachas Patza, Rashi over there says Kra Yisehu. This drasha to tell us that L'chai Bal Hashoigig Gemezid Bal Oinis Karatzin. So that's what we're saying now. That okay, but why does it say the word Tachas? The word Tachas is teaching me this second halacha too. And Papa Mishmein Deravam, he says Amakra. The pasuk tells us v'rape yerape. What's v'rape yerape? There's litin refu b'makam nezik. That's the source for the next halach. We have tsar ripui. Where do we know ripui from? It's from v'rape yerape. That you have to pay for doctor bills even when there's the nezik. Says that's not extra. that you need to teach the halacha we mentioned in Amud Aleph. This teaches us that there's permission for the doctor to heal. That's why we have this redundancy. How could you say the redundancy is to teach me that there's refu b'makom nezik? No, if that's the case, it should say, not v'rape yirape. It should say, and the roife and the doctor will be yirape. What's v'rape yirape? Shmamanol in refu b'makom nezik. It's obviously teaching me, instead of saying v'roife yirape, it says v'rape yirape. It's teaching me that you're going to have to pay for the doctor bills even if you're paying for the damages. But says or you still need it for something else, like we already said on Amud Aleph. We said lemisni bekrab beripo. Didn't you tell me the reason why you repeat it is okay? Fine, it could have said bereife. It says verape, but that change, that nuance, is teaching me a different halacha. You told me that's to tell you that if you have the sores because of the wound, that you're going to be obligated for that also. That's why it says a redundancy v'rapi, not to teach you that you have refu b'makom nezik. Says no, there's a third nuance. Imkin, if that's the case, Lemukra the pasuk should have said oyrape rape, or yirape. Say the same word 2 times. My v'rape yirape. So again, there's a redundancy. That's teaching me that the doctor is allowed to heal.
I thought we couldn't use the same pasuk to teach us 2 different things.
What do you mean? Why?
We just learned on the hour where it came to teach us that the doctor has issues.
Right. So that's what I'm saying. So there's 3 different nuances. There's the fact that it repeats the word 2 times. That's teaching, like Taisa said, that the doctor is allowed to heal whether if someone injured him or let's say Hashem injures the person. That's one thing. That could have said v'roipe yirape. The v'roife yirape. The doctor heals. It doesn't say that. It says v'rape yirape. So that second nuance is teaching me what? That's teaching me just the fact that it says a second word, not roife, but something else, teaching me that if, let's say, it develops sores because of the original wound, that you can be chayiv. But there's a third nuance. It didn't, even if it's not saying v'roipe yirape, it's saying v'rape yirape. But why is it changing the word from v'rape yirape? It should either say v'rape rape, or you say v'yirape yirape. Why is it changing the word? Is teaching me a third halacha. To teach me that you chayiv for the healing, even when you're paying for the damages. So there are 3 different things you're learning out from v'rape yirape. Says the Gemara, but machlal, the inference is, you're telling me that all the 4 things are going to be chayiv, even b'makom nezik. But the inference is the mishkachas lu shalei b'makom nezik. Right? You're telling me that you can be chayiv on them even when it's a makom of nezik. Obviously, what you mean to say is that, but you would be able to have it, and that's what you teach me, it's even when there is nezik. But obviously, inference, you're trying to tell me that it would be applicable even when there was no damage. How do you have all the 4 things of tsar, ripa, sheves, baishas without having injured a person to be chayiv on those things? You tell me, even when you're paying for the nezik, when there's a damage, when there's an injury that you have to compensate him for, you'll be chayiv for these 4 things. But the inference is, but you could have those even without a nezik. What are those cases? Says Gemara, okay, let's start off with number 1, tsar. Pain is kediktan. This we already learned in the Mishnah already. That tsar, the pain is kavai b'shvud. If let's say you pain him by burning him with a shish kebab stick, a spit, like b'masma with a nail, a fill out tziparnai, even on his fingernail, which the makom she'in the does not make a wound. It's the pain of having burnt him. You have to compensate him. That's for where you would have tsar shaloi b'makom nezik. Ripui, where do you have a doctor bill if you didn't injure a person? That this guy had a wound in his flesh, and it was healing. Now, this guy brought him an ointment to alleviate, like a quick-acting medicine. The achvere labisre, and it turned his skin into like a color of tsaras. It made it into like a whitened patch of skin. The tzarech he has to go ahead and provide for another ointment for the ripui, lankute gavna de bisre, to have the skin restored to its normal color. So it's not a nezek. The guy was healing. It's just that it requires some type of a medicine to take care of the condition. That's where you would be paying just for ripui, but not for any nezek itself. Sheves, where would you have a loss of work without any nezik? Is the hadke be'indraine, very interesting, is where basically the guy just locked him up in a room, ubatle, and he doesn't let him get to work. So that's Sheves without any nezik itself. And what's baishes, what's shame, that's the rakle bape, spits in his face. Obviously, there's no nezik there. It's just an emotional experience of shame. That's where you would have all these four things, even shalei b'makam nezik. Now the Gemara continues now with the next item mentioned in the Mishnah. We already spoke about nezek, tsar, ripui, and now up to sheves, the loss of work. So says the Mishnah, we said you have to pay him as if he's a watchman of cucumbers. Now the reason that is because, as the Gemara is going to go through, but basically the guy used to be able to do obviously a more difficult job, but now that his hand was cut off, he can't do those jobs, but he could still watch the cucumbers. So we already paid you for the nezik. So now we'll pay you for whatever job. Now you're sick. Now you're in bed. You obviously can't do anything right now. But when you get healed, you'll be able to watch cucumbers. It's for that we compensate you now for your unemployment. The Gemara explains in the Brisa. Sheves, like we said in the Mishnah, the loss of work is we look at him as if he's a guard, a watchman of cucumbers. Now, Vimtam, you're going to say, wait a second. The attribute of justice is smitten. In other words, he's not paying him all that he has to, because the chimitva chai gavra, when this guy gets healed from this illness, from this that the guy went and chopped off his hand, lav agad shemikashum hu shakel. He's not only taking wages for like a watchman of cucumbers. Eladali davla v'shakal igra. I mean, the guy would be able to draw buckets, and he'll be able to take wages that are extra, that are more. Comes out all the days of his illness, he lost a higher paying job. So why are you paying him just for like a guard for cucumbers? Or inami. Or additionally, you could say, when his hand is cut off, azal b'shliach v'shakal igra, he could go as an agent, and he could go ahead and take payment that's more. So it's revealed that he's not just someone that's a guard for cucumbers. So on that says the Brisa, no. Midas adin loylak. So the attribute of judgment is not ruined. It's not true. He already gave him the value of his hand. He already gave him the value of his leg. And therefore, when he's going to be healed, he's not fit to draw the water or to go for the agency, because he doesn't have his legs, doesn't have his hand. And that is something that was already compensated for. And therefore, we're not saying that like, oh, when the guy's going to get healed. What do you mean? That this is what you lost, and this is what we compensated you for. Now, what could you do? Now you could only watch cucumbers, and therefore, now that you're not doing any work, that's what we pay for. Amar Rabba says, Kita es yadai. If he cut off his hand, so he could still watch cucumbers. So first you obviously pay for the value of his hand, and then the sheves, and then the loss of work, meaning now that he's sick from the injury, he has to first recuperate. So that really nice. We look at him as if he is, and this is the case of the Mishnah, when you cut off his hand, as if he's a watchman of cucumbers. Now, Shiba is ragle. What happens if the guy went and comes with the iron pipes, who works for the mafia, and the guy breaks the guy's legs, Nancy Kerrigan, and you can't watch cucumbers anymore, because at least there you have to go out and go around the garden to see what's going on. So ragle. So then you have to give the value of the feet, obviously for the nezik. And then Mesheves, what do you do for Sheves? You can't pay him anymore for a Shemik Keshuin, because he can't even do that. So we look at him as if he's just a doorman watching the door, that he can sit in one spot, he can ring the bell if someone's coming. So therefore, that's what you pay him for. Now, Simas Einoi, what happens if he blinds his eye? So again, nicely you have to give him the value of his eye. Mesheves and loss of work, now he can't even be a watchman for the door because he can't even see. So look at him as if he's someone who grinds by the mill, because you don't have to see anything, you just keep on turning that wheel. That's how much you pay him for. If he makes him deaf, he's not fit for anything. You give him the value of everything. We see how important hearing is, that a person is very gunished if he's deaf, and therefore you pay him everything.
So the first question that my answer is, if in fact it's acceptable to allow a person, accept and receive away for anything, because
Yeah, that's shevis. Shevis is the loss of work.
Goes to a different level.
Right, depending on what the injury is, what are you able to do now when you recover?
Which means that you have to deal with every day.
Yes, depending on what the injury was, how much is what job can you do when you get healed, and you're not doing that right now. You're not going to pay what you used to be able to do because that already paid you for the demay of the nezik. Now, by Rav had the following question. This is going to take us into the next daf. Kita es yadoi. What happens if they cut off his hand? V'loyam duhu. But they didn't yet evaluate him in court. They didn't tell the perpetrator, look, you got to pay this and this amount for the doctor bills, this and this amount for the loss of work, and for the pain, and for the embarrassment. So they didn't get a chance yet. And not only did he cut off his hand, shibis ragli. Now he went and he broke his leg before he got healed. And v'leim do, they still didn't evaluate him. And simis enoi, he blinded his eye. V'leim do, and they didn't evaluate him yet. At the end, he went and now he even made him deaf. Now, what's the halacha? What's the shayla? So the Gemara explains. Mi'aminan, do we say that what? Kivin d'leim du, since he wasn't evaluated yet. Okay, we'll give one assessment, and so that's it. When you make a person deaf, we said that. Okay, so you don't get any sheves because you can't do anything. We'll pay you for your full amount. So are we just going to give one assessment? I'll pay it all in one assessment? Maybe no. We're going to evaluate each one individually, like the injuries happen. And then we're going to go ahead and give him that. So as Rashi explains, even though regarding the nezik, it doesn't make a difference for us, because at the end of the day, every injury kept on making his value less and less and less. So whether you evaluate all at one shot or each one independently, it's going to be the same. So what's the nafkamina, says the Gemara? Oh, the nafkamina is, the takeaway is, the boy l'meisuv leitzara boishu l'chal chada v'chada. You have to give the pain and the shame of everyone independently. Because as Rashi explains, regarding the doctor bills, that's not relevant because he wasn't healed in between. And for the loss of work also it's not relevant because anyways he's giving him his entire value and it's like his slave. The difference is regarding, however, the shame and the pain of each time. Because because you're right, although the injury and the doctor bills and the loss of work of each independent one, we're not going to give it to him because given the kayob to make kule, since at the end of the day he made him deaf, he's anyways giving him entire value. Command the katlam, it's like he killed him. He gave him his whole value already, so he doesn't have to pay him for the ripuy and the sheb. It's not relevant. But Sarah boishes miyas, however, regarding the pain and the shame, however, the cholchad v'chad yoiv, do you say that each and every one you're going to give for the hahavali tzara boish because each one was independent pain and shame? Now, if you're going to say no, kivin lo yamdu since lamaisi you didn't evaluate him, kiyovli to make kuli bihada dodi, you're just going to give him a one shot, one assessment. Duhuma. What's Allah? However, if you did evaluate him. What's the question? Do we say kivin damduhu since they evaluated him? So then, okay, evaluate him already. You got to pay for each one individually. Like them, maybe no. Kivin d'leisham since he didn't pay yet, you're able to make kule. He'll give him his entire value. Says Gemara Teku. Let us stand. It's not clear what the halacha would be in this type of situation. You can do any time of those things.